This is episode number 10, Comparing Yourself to Others.
What's happening? This is Quamon Fowler coming to you with another podcast. And on today, we're going to go into talking about comparing yourself to others. But before we get into that, of course, I like to share some news about what's going on. Now, I also want to say Happy New Year to everybody out there listening. It was a great year for me last year, and I hope it was a good year for you as well. This is the time where people will want to get their New Year resolutions together and goals, and start making preparations to pursue those goals, and those are great things to do. I know I have some of my own that I've put in place, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that and what I'm actually doing right now. And what I have here is the book, The Christian Musician, and the subtitle is Learn What Your Real Gift Is and How to Succeed with and Beyond Your Music. And so what I did is last year in April, I released this book, the physical copy, to be available for the physical book to be available. And I was able to sell that on gigs and, different places online. I was able to sell and send it out to different places. That's what I meant to say. And it's gone out to Africa. It's gone to the UK, people in the Netherlands, different places around the country. So I'm very thankful to have had people who was interested, and still getting requests for it to be on different platforms. And you never know, you never can really anticipate how much value you're offering, or you know what I'm saying? It's like you never know who's watching, who's listening, who's been following what you've been doing. So it's always a blessing to get those messages and email and Facebook messages and of people just talking about how much they've appreciated the stuff that I've been doing and sharing. So that's always encouraging, and that's why I wanted to make my book available on Amazon, because some people like to check it out on their mobile device because it's portable, and and then it's those people who want to get the physical book. So I wanted to have the physical book because when I do gigs, I can have it right there on the gig to sell. And I've been able to sell some books on the gigs, and it's been pretty nice. And the main thing, is to get this message out. And it was a message that's really been bubbling in my heart for a while. And this book really is a memoir. It's a autobiography of my journey as a musician. And I capture a lot of insights from the time that I first started playing all the way up until the current time. And I really talk about, my experiences from being a man, developing into being a good father, a good husband, and a good father, and just different lessons that I've learned just from being a touring musician, and really how to organize my thoughts, organize my life so that I can be responsible. And that's the key, that's the focus. And I knew that it was really something that was needed because, it's tough for musicians who don't have a mentor and who might not have had a strong father figure in their life, or a father coming up, or someone who can, show them a good example in terms of how to be a good provider. You know, if you desire to have a wife and kids, and my tone or my I guess my focus in my book was really kind of towards men, guys, musicians. Now, of course, it's been a blessing to uh, women as well, because I've had some women to read the book. But when you write a book, it's they say that you should have the person in mind who you are talking to, and mine was to younger aspiring musicians, and so that was the tone of the book. But for anybody who is, even if you're not a musician, it's a great book that pulls together some solid principles that you can apply in your own profession. So here it is, 2017, and we have social media. And social media, I've been on Facebook since like 2007 or 8 or something like that. And before that, it was MySpace. MySpace was pretty happening for musicians because cats could put up their music and pictures and stuff, gigs and stuff like that. So it was a shift in the consciousness and awareness of, in terms of what is going on in the community. And so I think since then, it's been a thing where, of course, we stay hooked into these social media platforms, whether it be Facebook or whether it be YouTube. We want to follow artists and follow other musicians and other cats and see what they're doing, what kind of gigs they got, where they're going, or what's on their mind. Now we can stream live and do Facebook live and different things like that. So it's one of those things where it can be a great tool. It can be good because you stay connected with what's going on. You can stay up on what's happening. But at the same time, if you personally are not secure in who you are and what you're doing, sometimes it can affect your esteem. Like if you feel that somebody else is doing a lot or doing better, or you're even comparing yourself to them and wanting to compete with them and get the same kind of gigs or opportunities that they're having or stuff like that, stuff can get a little messy and not healthy. And so my angle, even in doing this podcast, was not so much to focus on the social media aspect, but it's really some principles that I wanted to outline and wanted to help you better understand how to use the works or the influence of others and properly put it into put it into the right place so that it can be a healthy thing for you. Now, in the book, I talk about when you want to become a better musician and how you focus on different people who have strengths in the areas that you don't. And so one of the things that I did, I would pick musicians, like for instance on saxophone, Johnny Griffin. I learned his stuff. I learned a lot of his music because I was attracted to his ability to play fast. And so Sonny Rollins, who was a jazz saxophonist, he's still alive. The thing I like about his playing was his rhythm, the rhythmic ideas that he did. And so Cannonball Adderley was another saxophonist, alto saxophonist, who I appreciated his articulation. And so these are just 3 examples. And so what I did at a young age, I would listen to their recordings and I would learn as much as I could from that. And what I did, I would record myself when I would play, and I would try to see how I sounded in comparison with these musicians, and this was my standard. So what happened is I incorporated the articulation from Cannonball Adderley, the speed and ideas of from Johnny Griffin, and I take also the rhythmic stuff from Sonny Rollins, and I would learn all of their solos. And when I would play, of course, I would become a collage of the stuff that I would listen to. Okay, now I would, always use that same principle when it came to learning songs. I would get a song and I would find other artists playing that same song. If it was a jazz standard like Autumn Leaves or something like that, I would um, find recordings of different recordings of musicians playing that song, and I would learn their ideas so that when I would play the song, I would sound, like a collage, or I would assimilate all the ideas into my own bag and present it. And so this is a healthy way that I was able to use the influence of others and in order to grow and mature in my own playing. And so as I got older and I started to pay attention more to other priorities, like, just taking care of business, getting into business and doing entrepreneurial ideas, and also managing your finances, and also from being a husband. It was some things that I needed to focus on when it came to leadership, and so I started listening to audio podcasts and reading books. And, I was always one who was in church. And so going into 30, and I talk about the cutting season when I actually cut my hair because I had long dreadlocks. But during that season, I felt it was time for me to get some mentorship. I had locks for 10 years. And when I was approaching 30, it was just a time to really focus on what I needed to focus on, because I'd done a lot of things, from winning competitions to traveling around the world playing, had notoriety, won, done different programs and different things like that, where I released CDs. I released my first CD at 19, and even before that, when I was 15, I was recording and releasing tapes. So, I've always been self-driven and motivated to get stuff done. And so approaching 30, I just realized that, we were trying to buy a house. That's what it was. And we moved back here to the area. And so my credit, I didn't have credit really established. It wasn't really good. And of course, the first thing they ask, how much you make a year. And then they also want to know where you worked. And so being a musician, a freelance musician, you work all over the place. And I didn't really keep track of all of my books as well as I do now. And so it was really frustrating because my wife was the one who had something consistent and we would have to go with, because she had a consistent job. And so all of this stuff kind of hit me at one time. And so when we're talking about comparing yourselves to others, I want y'all to think about this, especially if you're a musician. If you spend your time just checking out musicians or cats based on their musical ability, think about it. When you're focusing on music, the stuff that people play, the way the cats execute stuff, the harmony, the rhythm, the melody, you get captivated in that. You want to study that. That's occupying a lot of your time and a lot of your mental space just in that particular area. But here it is. That's one particular area. That musician, when you think about it, it took them a certain amount of years and time to focus on this one particular area, to get good at this area in order to present it at that high level. And so if you want to do that, then it's going to require a lot of your time, a lot of your focus, and a lot of your energy. But what I'm saying is that's only one area. And that's really what I wanted to point out in this whole comparing yourself to others. Because when you think about other aspects of their lives, you check out the same musicians that you admire musically, you need to check out their life outside of music and see if they're just as good or if they're lacking in these other areas, because it's really a logical thing. If I practiced all the time, then of course I would be good at that. But I have more of a responsibility than just to be good on an instrument. You know, I'm a father now. I am a husband. So my time that I spend has to be in it has to let me turn this AC down. But my time, because it's too loud, the time that I spend now, it has to be balanced. It has to, of course, we trade time for money. So whatever you spend your time doing, it needs to produce income so that you can support a family. And so rewinding back, when I was thinking about a lot of these things and being frustrated with having, I guess, being famous a little bit, but not really having, you know, a lot of money to show for it, it frustrated me because there was a lot of external hype and external being celebrated externally for a persona. And on the inside, my structure was a little off because, you know, when you're a child, I talk about in the book also about putting away childish things. And it's a scripture that Paul said where it says, you know, when I was a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. And so that was my thing. I was trying to I didn't realize it, but it's just how I was wired. I was just wired to practice a certain amount of hours every day, and you know, I was wired to where when I heard something in my head, I would go to the computer and try to work it out. I would try to create a track. I would write the music. I would spend hours and days writing a song just so I could present it to my band. And so keep in mind, the music industry is changing. You know, 2000, what, 2000, around the early 2000s, the CDs were really kind of on its way out. And so think about it. When I was a teenager, I would go to the music stores, the CD stores, and get CDs. I would buy a lot of CDs. So I was thinking back then, I want to do that. I want to be able to have my CD on the shelf, you know, in the store. I want to be next to, you know, John Coltrane and Johnny Griffin, and you'll come to Fowler, you know, and I was able to do that at Borders Books and Music. It was a store here that my dad used to take me to all the time to get CDs. And so I accomplished those goals. And when I went to Southern, I was able to sell my CDs in different places for consignment. So, but the business is changing, things are changing. And so when it comes to making money from music, it's really hard. You know, they started when Napster hit, it really messed up the whole game because everybody thought from that point on we should just get music for free. And from Napster hitting, you had Steve Jobs that was inspired to start iTunes, and then, you know, stuff was being sold for 99 cents. And so all of this was happening really fast. And here I am I was just, I guess I was doing pretty good because I was doing CDs and I was doing gigs and traveling around. So I had a lot of momentum. But what I'm saying is I needed to think about my wife. You know, I needed to think about something stable for my now son. And so I needed a job. I got a master's degree. I was a TA at Texas Tech for a minute. And then after that, I was open. I was just playing gigs. And that was frustrating for my wife because in Lubbock, when I didn't have the teacher's assistantship anymore, I was just traveling around playing, and it was hard because I wasn't there with her. And so during that time, I was like, okay, I need to do something about this. And that's when I started Jazz Webshed in 2009, because it was something that I wanted to do to where I could create income at the house and not have to be gone all the time. And so I created the website and it's still up, jazzwebshed.com. And I put up videos where I was teaching and doing podcasts and live stream lessons and stuff like that, Skype lessons. I did all of that stuff just so that I could be there close to my wife. And later, a couple years later, I ended up getting an adjunct position at Southwestern Seminary. And so I started to really put my life into a better structure, it better. And what I'm saying is that came from mentorship, from people and looking at other men who were solid in terms of being a provider for their family and solid in walking in integrity. And so what I started doing is taking the same principle that I would use in playing, where when I would focus on different musicians who were good in these areas, I would focus on these guys and I would try to emulate what they were doing when it came to finances. So I got into investing, I was got into saving and I started learning how to structure myself as a self-employed person. And also I followed different people when it came to internet business. And I hooked up with my now pastor from my wife, whose uncle, Will Ford, was working with G. Craig Lewis. And so he told me that they were going to start a church, that he was going to start a church. So I knew I needed to be there because Pastor Craig had the experience as a musician, and also he had the information because of his research from researching the music industry. And so I knew I needed to be connected with him. And plus, he's from Fort Worth. So it was just a natural connection. So I connected there, and I was able to watch or, be mentored by him, Teton Moffett, Wendell Mosley. And these are like guys who were contributing to the EX Ministries, EX Ministries. And so a lot of their information, a lot of the things that they shared, Will Ford, of course, my uncle, really helped me put things in the right place. And so a lot of times we don't sit back and have a blimp view, or overview of what we're doing. Sometimes we can get so caught up in what we're doing and just be pushing ourselves. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do this. I need to do that. And it's because we're comparing ourselves to our peers or to what everybody else is doing. And when you think about it, when you are so focused on trying to be like other folk, it's like you're missing out on a whole lot more area. Sometimes you're competing for such a small space. And one of the things that I was thinking about this morning, and I said, yeah, I need to do a podcast about this, because I was thinking about this. See, the reason why it's important for you to have a relationship with Christ and focus on the Word of God, because His standard is much higher than the standard of another man. You want to get a gig at a certain club that's not even paying much, but you just want to be in that clique, or you just want to be celebrated or seen amongst these particular musicians. Whereas if you sit and think about who you are and what you really want to do and just pursue that independent of trying to get validation through being in a certain group. I just want to make sure I'm not okay. But if you want to, you know, if you want to, what I was saying. So if you instead of trying to focus on what everybody else is doing and being a part of the clique, and just because this group of musicians is doing this, I want to be in the mix. Instead of focusing on that, and you focus on God's standard for you, you can set yourself up to where there's no competition. You'll be in a category of your own. You have the freedom to really do whatever you want to do, because you're not subscribing yourself to such a limited scope and perspective. And that's one of the things that I did, because one of the things that I learned is you want to look outside of your industry. A lot of stuff inside the music business, I'm not really motivated by. We say, the Bible talks about, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world, because all that's in the world is the lust of the eye, the what is this? The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And so that's true. And so I've been one who have focused outside of the music industry. The thing that I did here with publishing this book, a lot of musicians, they don't do stuff like that. But I knew that my gift is teaching, or word of knowledge. According to the Bible, there's spiritual gifts. And I know that mine is that. Music operates under the spiritual gifts of helps, or ministry, because ministry is helps. That's what that is. And so when you play music, you make people feel a certain way. You can encourage people. You can even make people feel sad. You can make people feel happy. You can even expel certain spirits or lift their spirits. And excuse me. And I talk about that in the book, because David has an example. Excuse me. There was an example in 1 Samuel 16 chapter with David, when he played his harp for Saul when he had the evil spirit and the evil spirit left. And so music can operate in that area, or on that level. But the bigger picture is the vessel that's being used, or the vessel that's being used to play that music. What spirit is coming through him? What what's in his heart? What's in his soul? And even away from the instrument, what type of person are you? And so the thing I admire about David is he was known to be a man who sought after God's heart, but he was also a master musician on the harp. And but he was known, really, his most popular, I would say, he was one of the greatest kings that Israel had seen. David was. And so David, his spiritual gift was leadership. And I believe that every man has that call on their life to be a great leader, because we have to be husbands, and we have to be fathers. And think about it. God's creation role, like what we call it at my church, is for us, for as men, is to be a father. To be a husband first, a father, and then a provider, a protector, and priest in the home. And those things should be prioritized first. As a woman, God created a woman with everything she needs to bear children. Of course, get married, become a wife, then become a mother. The family structure is what it's all about in the sight of God's eyes. And so a lot of times we get selfish. We get turned on by what's going on in the world, what other people are doing, what the world validates. I want to be famous. I want to be on the stage. I want to travel. I want to be seen. I want to do these videos on YouTube, and I want to get a lot of likes, and I want to go and win a Grammy and all of that kind of stuff. And then that's all selfish. You want to be lifted up. You want to be celebrated. And it's more in line with how Lucifer is or was when he had his position in heaven. He wanted to be like the Most High God, and he influenced a third of the angels and were expelled. They were kicked out of heaven. And so earlier on in my life, when I found out about that story, when my mother read it to me when I was a kid, I knew about that story. When as a musician, I started seeing that these patterns, or I would see the same spirit of getting pride and lifted up and being into yourself, and wanting to be celebrated and praised. I saw it in these musicians. Of course, I saw it in myself. And I was like, Lord, I don't want to be that way. But I didn't understand. I didn't have all of the awareness, of course, in my 20s. And we all grow and learn more and more. But as I approached 30, I saw that my path needed to change. I've been a Christian, but at the same time, when I had my locks, that was like a prideful season in my life. And so, my whole persona and image, sometimes musicians can get caught up in their persona, being a musician. And of course, think about it. When you're in a position, when you're playing, you're making people feel good. People admire you for what you're doing. They come up, they tell you, oh, you sound great. Oh, you gifted. Oh, you just this and then you just that. And you just, yeah. And you hear that night in and night out after gig and gig, and you've heard it all your life, then it can build you up, especially in church. If you're a part of a church and the leadership is, you're in a leadership position where you're leading people in worship and you're like a vital component. See, and that's another area right there in itself. You're part of a worship experience, and the pastor is using you because of your talent, and he's not looking at who you are away from what you do, or he's letting you go, letting you pass, on, just not being responsible because you can play so good on that instrument. See, I didn't like that. I didn't want to be connected with ministries like that. I've been in positions where the musicians were killing and I had a great time playing, but the word was whack. Then I've been in situations where the music wasn't all that, but the word was good, But I knew that I needed to shift, and I talk about in the book when I changed churches, to be connected with ABC Now. I talk about how I placed a value on mentorship and needing to receive the right information so that I could, set up my house and my family and my structure right. And so I'm not getting paid on Sunday to be at the place where I am now. But I'm telling you, when I made the transition, so much blessings and abundance of money and all of that came as a result of me being in the right place. I hated to be in a position of making money and not feeling the Holy Spirit. I hated to be in a position where I'm playing and touring and being around musicians or people that didn't esteem, who didn't want God, who were into, drugs or wanting to get into perversion and stuff like that. That's an uncomfortable feeling when something's on the inside of you is not in agreement with the other guys around you. It's very uncomfortable. We might be on the same level musically, but this environment is not really what I wanted to be in, and it's not what I wanted. So what I needed to do is to regroup. I needed, like I said, that blimp view. I needed to come away from it. I needed to sit back and say, man, what can I do? And that ties into even now with resolutions. We have the power really to create the world that we imagine. That's what we do anyway as musicians. When we hear things, we can sit down at the keyboard, work out the chords and the melody, make a chart or make a track, give it to other musicians who can play it in person, and then we can go play a gig or we can go record it in the studio. We bring those things in our imagination into reality. That's what we do. So I started to get a bigger picture where it's like, man, instead of just going along with what the world presents to me as the option, I can create the world that I want. I can actually do what God really has put into my heart. And that was to be a good husband, a faithful husband, being a good father, a provider, and also being a good musician, playing at a high level, playing music that honors him. Of course, these are high standards, and this is stuff that I wanted as a kid. And so what I'm learning is the older you get, of course, you get more selective, you get more particular, you get more information, you get more perspective, and all of that. So it's like the older you get, the more you want stuff to go the way you want it to go. And so I started to learn about branding. I started to learn about even the persona. You know, I have a persona. Y'all, it's a persona is basically your impression of me, you know, and it's not it's only a small portion of what you see. As a man on this end, you know, being married to my wife, the persona that you all see is it's only a small portion. So my wife, what she wants from me is for me to be the janitor. She wants me to put out the trash. You know, she wants me to make sure the landscaping is taken care of, the house, if something go wrong with the plumbing, I got to get the plumbing taken care of. You know what I'm saying? That's what really matters. And right there, that's leadership. You know, I have to be responsible. I had to sell the car because it broke down on us. You know, just making decisions at the house, what we're gonna do with my son about certain things. You know what I'm saying? That's where it really counts. That's the essence of who I really am. Music, my musical choices and my taste and all of that kind of stuff, that's just an art form. Music is just an art form. It's just a palette by which I get to express my feelings and what's on my heart and soul. And so I get to share a little piece of who I am with you all. And that blesses you or it encourages you. But I'm just wanting to give you some perspective because what I learned is musicians get so caught up in their persona and they think that that's who they are. Their identity is so caught up in their musical ability. And a lot of times, as a result of that, that's why they get into the drugs. That's why they get addicted. You know, that's why they get addicted to certain substances, to, you know, all of these different things, because they're not really content. They're discontent because they're being celebrated and appreciated by all these people, but inside they know that they don't have themselves together. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be like that. I want to be solid. I want to be tight together with my family situation. I want to be tight together with the music. I put a lot of time in the music. I put a lot of time, you know, in developing my sound and stuff like that. So I'm, you know, of course, there's always room to grow in that. But my focus now and priority is my family and getting them together. And so that's really it. That's what I wanted to share. Of course, I'm really passionate about this area, so that's why I keep going on and on. But the Christian musician, that's what this is about. You know, your real gift. Your gift is the way you think, you know, and music is just an avenue by which your giftedness is displayed through. So I give some scriptural background. I give some life examples, my journey and my perspective and things that I learned. And that's what this book is about. And it is available on Amazon. Be sure to tune in next time for the Texas Tenor Podcast. And we'll see you. Make sure you go to QuamonFowler.com, QUAMON Fowler, FOWLER.com to check out what's going on, other music, other performances, videos, blogs, and all of those things there. If you are a musician and you want to take lessons with me, you can do that on my website, QuamonFowler.com/lessons. And lastly, Jazz Webshed is the place where I offer jazz improvisation tips. I also do business and music marketing tips and things like that, all stored in one place. And I changed the membership price down to just $10 a month now, or $100 a year, if you would like to be a part of that. Okay, so thank y'all for listening, and we'll see you next time.